teste. Chico, demos. Good morning. Welcome to this morning discussion on enable sustainable transport and mobility planning for an enhanced ambition. My name is João Caetano and I'm the president of the Portuguese Institute for Mobility and Transport. With me here on stage we have Olga Pereira, Deputy Mayor for the City of Braga, with the oversight of mobility and transport. Sandra Cerqueira, Executive Board Member at the Municipality of Braga's Transport Operator, and Francisco Ferreira, President of the environmental non-governmental organization Zero and a university professor in Lisbon. Transport is the sector of the economy that is struggling the most to decarbonize. In fact, in the past 30 years, transport emissions increased 30% despite the considerable gains in vehicles' energy efficiency. However, those gains have not been sufficient to offset the increase in transport demand, which is strongly coupled to economy growth. Road transport accounts roughly for 3/4 of those emissions. Demand for transport in cities will continue to grow together with the economy. One of the challenges is to decouple that growth for carbon emissions. The other is to reduce congestion and transform cities in a way that, as the Portuguese anthropologist Sonia Lavadinho puts it, we move from a functional urban setting to a more relational city where active and public transport modes are the backbone of the mobility system. So I will start by asking Olga, thank you for being here with us. How is Braga tackling the transformation to a more urban, sustainable environment? I think you can have that one.
Thank you. Good morning, all of you. Thank you very much for the kind invitation, for being here. Braga has a long-standing commitment to pedestrian in the city center. We have a large pedestrian area for about 150 square meters, and we are very committed to make a great effort to improve the conditions of sidewalks for the pedestrians, the high quality for our pedestrians, and we have some projects to do that, and international projects also to specific programs to schools like school bus, cycle expresso, pedibus, and a program which we call it I already pass here, that aims improve the pedestrian conditions, the safety and active transportation for all our citizens. We also are working in our intelligent transport system. We think that the monitorization of public transport and private sector, also private transport, will smart traffic management and real-time transport monitoring enhances an operation efficiency and sustainability. We also work a lot on education and awareness campaigns, targeting actions with schools and communities, promoting behavioral changes. We have some pilots in partnership with EIT, and those programs tests significant new approaches and integrated systems that also help us to change behaviors, to collect data, and to sustain our public policies.
Thank you very much. So Braga is in fact the third major city in Portugal, and with a very dynamic urban um, setting, also because it's near Guimarães. You have the university that with campuses in Braga and Guimarães. This poses huge challenges in terms of mobility of people in that region. And there's a municipality public transport operator, TUB, that is going through a very interesting transformation in terms of decarbonization of the fleet and increase in the offer of services to the citizens. So how public transport is not a new mode of transport, is not a new mobility solution, but is in the center of the transformation for mobility in cities. How is TUB, Transportes Urbanos de Braga, tackling this challenge of changing how we see public transport in cities in order to attract more passengers to it? Sandra, please.
Okay. Thank you, EMT, for this invitation, having the opportunity to be here at COP29. So thank you, and compliment our panel members as well. So Transportes Urbanos, what can we say about this? So public transport is facing some challenges nowadays to attract more passengers. It's not that public transport hasn't been here for a few years. It's been here like in Braga we have public transportation since the 19th century, so we've been here for a long. But we have been addressing some challenges to reinvent public transport, and I would identify some challenges regarding convenience, sustainability issues, transport advancements, engaging passengers and enhancing passenger engagement and their experience. So I have highlighted some key areas where this is happening. First of all, in delivering sustainability efforts. We know that we cannot reach the goals that European has set regarding decarbonization if we don't decarbonize the public transport. So the studies say that 29% of all green gas emissions from the bus and heavy truck, 29% are accountable for bus and heavy truck transport. So it's obvious to all of us that we need to decarbonize this sector in order to reach the ambitious goals that the European has set. And the European Union has in fact made proposals to make climate, energy, transport, taxation policies fit to reach that net green gas emissions by 55% by 2030. So, but how can we do that? Okay, so but how can we do that with the heavy investments that this involves? So that's why the European Union, if it has set these goals, we have to do these investments, and the support from the European Union has been strong for that. So other ways that we're being challenged is to improve ridership experience of our passengers. Designing vehicles that are comfortable and have comfortable conditions for our passengers, that have Wi-Fi on board, that have charging port connections, that are more inclusive as well. And then we do need to improve our reliability and predictability. Predictability in public transport is one of the key features, and to do that, we also have to change the infrastructure, the city infrastructure, to allow for exclusive corridors and so forth. And then there are other matters such as affordability and accessibility, and I would say that these are paramount reasons for people to choosing public transport. Affordability, because, as I said before, investment is one of the primary drivers for public transport investment, and to reach this modal shift from private cars to public transport. And then accessibility, buses need to have enhanced features to
as the European Union says, leave no one behind and no location behind. So it has to be prepared for people that have disability limitations, and also have having audio-visual announcement systems on board as well. So, and then we have all these technological advancements in public transportation that we have to use in our favor. Electric buses nowadays each electric bus has its own system that it allows us to now the word is failing. We can monitor the emissions, the carbon emissions. We can see the state of charge of the buses. So it allows us to gives us a lot of data, and if we have buses that are from different typologies, from different manufacturers, the challenge is how do we get all this information in one unique platform? So this is one of the challenges that we're facing right now. And then we have integration and flexibility. If no one can be left behind, we have on-demand transport that we have to reach outskirt places in the city that we don't have the regularity that we would wish for. And then mobility as a service is also a challenge. How do we integrate different types of transport modes to make seamless travel? And then there's other important things that I would like to focus on urban design. It's important that for new areas we use a transit oriented development, so that we can have mixed use neighborhoods that are around transit hubs, so that public transport is in the central part of urban life. So that's also important, having dedicated lines. But it's not that easy to change cities that have been developing in a paradigm to invite cars in. And to change all that infrastructure, it's not very easy. So it takes time. And then one important thing that I would like to answer that my experience tells me is that marketing and public engagement is so important. We have to highlight the environmental benefits and the social benefits of having public transport. So building a strong communication for engaging passengers is very important. And I can tell you that we have a marketing and communication team that is very aware of that. And they're very aware that I wouldn't say that we are aggressive, but we probably are, but in a very positive manner regarding our marketing team. And they are very conscious that engaging our passengers in good marketing and communications increases passenger attractiveness and adoption. And then there are other things that we've been doing in Braga for people that normally don't use public transportation, is incentives and supporting the city events, which brings mass people. We have user interfaces with shuttles like the ones we use during the COP29, which take people from park and rides to the city center, so people can enjoy the walkability within the city, but can use public transport to get to those events. And it's like with a fare that is 1 year round trip, so it's inexpensive, and it also brings people to know how public transport works.
Thank you very much, Sandra. Francisco, we've heard about the perspective of the Municipality of Braga from Olga, and the perspective from the public transport operator. Braga is a very good example of how to operate this transformation into more sustainable public transport in cities. It's one of the best examples in Portugal. But not all cities are following the example of Braga. So what do you think we can do, or what cities can do and public transport operators can do in order to accelerate this transformation that is needed in cities to move people away from private cars into public transport?
First of all, João, thank you for this invitation. Zero is a Portuguese environmental NGO that has been working a lot on energy, climate, transportation issues, and I think that cities have the ability to actually do much more, not in the in the way where you can offer better public transport, both in terms of the fuels that you use, for instance, in buses, where you can actually go to or should go to full electrification, and the articulation of the different transport modes. The real problem is that you need to combine that with measures that really refrain the use of the car in cities. So what we see in Portugal and also in other countries is that we are subsidizing correctly the public transport system, making it much more attractive in terms of the possibility for people to change from the different modes of transport with the same ticket, make digitalization a very good opportunity to actually control the systems, both in terms of public information, of management of the fleet, of getting better interfaces. I think in many cases we still need to have surveys to actually inquire about the mobility needs of people on their daily lives, on their way the way they move, they go to work every day. But the problem is that if you do not have policies and measures by the municipalities and also at the national level, where you refrain the use of the car, like reducing the number of parking spaces, making those car spaces much more expensive, have the private companies not to offer free parking in the center of the cities, make the way for cycling and for pedestrians to actually use the space. We do improve a lot in terms of quality of life, reducing noise levels, reducing air pollution, and actually decarbonizing the city. So it has to be a combination between what we offer in terms of the public transport means, in terms of reliability, service, decarbonization of those modes. But at the same time, if you only do that and you do not act on the other side of taking the promotion that you do for the use of the car, we're not going anywhere. The numbers that current today, Zero, as part of a very large network, we evaluated the ranking of Portugal within the industrialized and main emitter countries. And Portugal was on the position number 15. Actually, Portugal last year was in position 13, and we downgraded to position 15. We're still a country with a very good ranking, but that ranking is going down. We were supposed to lower, if you look at the plans for 2030, we were supposed to lower our emissions in the transport system by 5% a year. And what is happening is that if you look at the sales of diesel and gasoline, we're stagnant. Meaning that we are actually getting a lot better in terms of, if we compare our public transport system with 5 years ago, we're much better. We got a lot of support from the European Union. We got a lot of support from the polluter pays principle, because the emissions trading system actually gets money that goes to the transport system to finance the lowering of the tariffs in the metropolitan areas and in other areas in the country. So we're doing the right thing on that side. But if you look at the final emission numbers, and we're stagnant, and actually we are higher than in 2019. So to finish up, what I think is failing now is really for the different cities. And I believe Braga has that challenge. The same other cities in Europe and in the world is to actually act through policies and measures to refrain the use of cars. Let me just give you the example of Paris. Paris is now a city. I was recently in Paris, where you before the Olympics, where you can enjoy, a city center with much less cars, and people are much happier with what happened. And for instance, the mayor of London also was re-elected in part of because of the restrictions on road traffic in downtown London. That's the way we have to complement with excellent public transport investments.
Thank you very much, Francisco. Paris, in fact, is going through a considerable transformation. Biking in Paris now is very easy compared to some decades ago. I've learned that at least 1/3 of the families in Paris don't own a car, which is something extraordinary. If we look at Portugal, I don't think we'll ever accomplish those numbers. Braga is a city that I think it's also going through a very interesting transformation. It has another challenge, which is that in Braga there's the coexistence of dense urban areas with more sprawled areas, which in terms of public transport management and planning poses considerable challenges. So how do you see this, Olga, of how can we in Braga provide mobility solutions for citizens that have different expectations and different demands for public transport? As Francisco was saying, we need to survey the needs of transport in populations, but in Braga we have both the urban and suburban areas, or more rural areas, where demand for transport is completely different. How do you tackle these challenges in Braga?
I just like to say that we have the ability, in fact, but we don't have enough money to invest in the necessary measures, and that are also claimed by our citizens. And we have a particularity, because in Braga, in the city center, we have almost 40 private park. And it's very difficult to enhance this reality. It's a lot of parking, and they are all private. The public space, it's a pay already parking, because we want to reduce the car parking in the city center, and we have to avoid and eliminate the unnecessary traffic cross by the city center. Well, we have to, to answer directly to the question, we have to integrate public transport, expanding coverage of bus network, the traditional bus network, with our future lanes of BRT, and then ensure the connectivity across dense areas and sprawling areas. And for do this, we have to promote the public transport, incentive their use, and the quality that will upgrade the attract internship, and obviously connect the public transport with the soft modes, either walking or cycling or whatever. We also have to continue to work in tailored measures, like we already have school bus, cycle expresso with the schools, for to respond, to give a response directly to each necessity. The ITS, the Intelligent Transport System, are also very, very important. The technology, we cannot improve measures with quality without the technology. And the technology will allow us to communicate, analyze, monitorize, and communicate directly with our citizens, suggesting another route, more efficient, suggesting problems, and then analyzing the data that the technology gave us to make the correct answers. Also, initiatives like we already have done, and we have to continue doing, like improving the conditions for walking and for cycling. We have to continue to give citizens the best conditions to adopt an intelligent way of moving. I have to highlight that in Braga, 70% of the population use the car every day, but more than 40% of this percentage use the car to move a distance that is not reach 3 kilometers. So this is our target. We want to explain to those citizens that they can move in a healthy way, in economic way also, and in improving the quality of life in our cities, in Braga specifically in this case.
Thank you, Olga. Sandra, you as executive board member of Transportes Urbanos de Braga have a challenge, which is to transform this company into a more sustainable company that promotes sustainable modes of public transport. What instruments do you have, public and private, in order to accelerate that transformation, to guarantee that you run a company that is itself sustainable, but at the same time is able to put out solutions that promote urban sustainable modes of public transport? What is your major challenge?
So I think that my major challenge is to have a sustainable company in economic and financial point of view. That's my main concern and something that is always on my mind every day. So we have been doing heavily investing in decarbonizing our bus fleet. Obviously that these investments are done with the support of the European community, European Commission, with most recently the investment that we made of up to 31 million euros. We had the support of around 42% of that investment from the cohesion fund. So obviously, public operators are unable, in the cities and the municipalities, are unable to make this heavy investment to reach the goals that the European Union has determined, which I already talked previously. But we have been doing that effort. We also have something that helps us finance the financing that we need to support the other 18 million euros that we have thus far, which is on street parking in the city center. So that's something that also helps us finance these heavy investments that we've been making. So thank you, Municipality of Braga, for delegating that responsibility on Transportes Urbanos de Braga. So we have like 65% of our fleet now is clean fleet, which includes electric buses, which are zero emissions. But we also have 25 new natural gas buses. That was also in the second call that European launched, because it is a transition energy technology. We did buy 25 natural gas buses, and most recently seven more additional natural buses. So we have 65% of our fleet that is clean. And we monitor, we also monitor the metrics that we have for our electric mobility are, we know that we have traveled like 5 million kilometers thus far, and we transported around 13 million passengers ever since 2018, when our first buses arrived. Because before that, we had a diesel run, completely diesel run buses, around 156, 160 buses that were completely diesel run, and they had an average age of 19 years old. So they were pretty old, pretty old. Even though my opinion is that we are still more sustainable than 60 individual cars. So we can replace around 40 to 60 individual cars. And we have thus far also 6.6 million avoided 6.6 million CO2 emissions to the atmosphere. So these are good numbers, and we're contributing and very committed to the cities, the municipalities' plan to have a mobility system that which is more sustainable. So we're pretty committed to that. And something that recently happened, and I'm prepared to announce here as well, we have already announced in Portugal, is that we recently won a call under the resilience, the Recovery and Resilience Plan, for additional finance from PRR, around 12 million euros for an investment of over 20 million for 38 additional electric cars, vehicles, bus vehicles. In this, not cars, bus vehicles, public bus vehicles. And that is something that will also help us. We have a strategic and sustainability plan for the next decade of the company, and we had goals to reach less 60% of our CO2 emissions by 2030, and have 70% of our electric bus fleet. Our electric bus fleet would be like around 70% of our entire fleet. We're going to anticipate that thanks to this investment in 2026. So this is very good. And I will have to review those goals for the next revision of our sustainability and strategic plan. So these are very good news for Braga. And hopefully we will be able to change the infrastructure, and the BRT project, the Bus Rapid Transit project, will help us do that, to have exclusive corridors and to change the mentality. Because in fact, Braga is one of those cities that, like our councilwoman said, we have 39, 40 parking lots in the city center. So the paradigm was to build a city and invite all cars in. But that's impossible, and I don't think that electric individual cars will be the solution, because the city doesn't have space to accommodate so many cars. We have to deliver the public space, which is already scarce, for households, for green spaces where people can enjoy safely that public space. So we're pretty much committed to reach these goals and help, in fact, the city have better quality of life for its citizens, and improve the ecosystem and mobility as well.
Thank you very much, Senator. Francisco, I think...
Jean, can I just comment here a little bit on Braga? I think, yeah, we have been... it's important to note that the current European funding is not longer supporting natural gas buses, because it's a fossil fuel, and one of the important things is really to change to biomethane as fast as possible in order to decarbonize the fleet, and all the support now is for electric buses. So that is one of the things that we see in Portugal and in other countries, is that we're using a lot of, even in Lisbon, in Porto, we have fleets with considerable use of natural gas. And what we want is basically, we understand that those options were less expensive and more viable at the time, but currently we have to move to electric buses with 100% renewable electricity, and that is just possible. We want the public transport companies to actually buy electricity with certificates that assure you that you get 100% renewable electricity. So that is part of the process. Yep. Sorry.
Thank you. No, but that's a good context for the question that I'm going to ask you next. So, as far as I understand, you have been part of this conference of parties since day one, right? So this is your
It was not from the beginning, but since 2000. So it
okay.
is.
So you have been here for 24 years
for
already.
24 years. That's true.
So
A lot of emissions.
a lot of emissions.
But
But the thing is, transport is the sector of the economy that is strongly the most to decarbonize. And do you think that within this discussion of COP, do you think transport has the centrality it should have? Because for me, it seems that it hasn't, right? For instance, today is the day of transport. It's not the day of transport alone. It's the day of transport, urbanization, and tourism. So it seems to me that the transport doesn't have the centrality it should have in a discussion at this stage. What's failing? Why are we not discussing transport as we should, with the centrality that it should have, given the fact that it's the sector that is strongly the most to decarbonize, and where the challenges are so complex because it's not only to substitute private cars with electric buses. It has to do with the way we organize cities. It has to do with the ways we finance that transformation. It has to do with a number of factors that are much more complex and that don't seem to me to have the centrality in this setting of discussion. What is your say on this?
yeah, okay. I partially agree with you, or there is at least an explanation for that. There are two very hard transportation sectors that are difficult to decarbonize. Extremely difficult to, or much more difficult to decarbonize than road transport, which is navigation and aviation. And navigation and aviation, they're not handled, they represent currently around 6% of the total emissions. You have 3% on the navigation, 3% on the aviation, and the problem of these two sectors is that they actually they're in a very high increase trend. But they are handled in the case of aviation by ICAO, so basically by the institution at the international level that takes care of aviation, and in Europe we have our emissions trading system that includes aviation, that will actually put aviation to pay all their emissions in the intra-European flights, and then ICAO has a system called the CORSIA that is not such a good system because it's not on reduction mainly, but more on compensation. And the conference of the parties basically, puts that away to ICAO instead of taking care of it. And the same with navigation. Navigation goes to IMO, so the International Maritime Organization, and they are the ones that again take care of the issue. In Europe, we have navigation including in our European trading system, and actually navigation will be also fully included in the CO2 with the CO2 price, and not only within Europe, but one of the trips to Europe will pay for those emissions. So the Green Deal, the European Green Deal, actually progressed a lot. But now let's look at the road transport. And in the case of road transport, it is definitely an issue that has been tackled here by a lot of countries, mostly by municipalities, by the different regions at the European level. So there have been events by the European Union at the SCOPs. A lot of the countries have been discussing the issues of road transport, because the problem, for instance, is that if you look at road transport worldwide, it's around 14% of the total of the emissions. But in many countries, like for instance in Portugal, those emissions represent more than 30%. So it really depends on the country we're talking about. and a lot of them actually are looking at road transport as a priority. But I agree that we should have more visibility to this issue of in this case road transport, because that is part of this COP, that is part of the mitigation strategies that the countries have to implement and have to improve a lot in terms of reduction of greenhouse gases emissions.
Okay, thank you, Francisco. So we have, my understanding is that we have 5 minutes left, so I will ask just a round of questions, 1 minute each for you, okay? Olga, you as the councilwoman responsible for mobility in the city of Braga, you have for sure a vision for what mobility and transport in the city. Let's say that we are meeting again in 10 years' time at COP39, and that I ask you what are the challenges you are facing then. I mean, regarding your vision for the city and taking into consideration that the sustainable urban mobility plans are the instruments that will allow you to promote that challenge. And by the way, EMT next week will be in Braga presenting the guidelines for these urban mobility sustainable plans that we are putting forward. How do you see that these instruments will allow you to accomplish that vision? And in 10 years' time, what do you think the city will be challenged? What are the challenges that the city will be facing in 10 years' time?
Well, I think in the next 10 years we are going to have efficient public transport. We have the BRT very, very aligned, and people using it. We hope that the BRT will be a turning on mental ship to allow our citizens to really make a difference and make a change on their own lives. And I think it's possible that in 10 years we can tackle the city center crossing unnecessary traffic. So I really hope that in the next 10 years we can tackle facing the problems that we have today. Of course, we will have another challenges, because that's the question. 100 years ago, we are tackling the problem of public health provoking by horses, and it was a very, very serious problem too. So today we are facing the solution of that problem that they have 100 years ago, that it's solved by motorization. So we obviously will have another challenges, but today we have to improve our public transport, eliminate the preconceito with the traditional prejudice that the traditional public transport faces nowadays. I think we are going to be successful with the BRT to tackle that issue. In fact, in the 10 last years, Tube were able to increase their clients in 24%. I think that's an important figure. And in 10 years we are going to have another challenges, but this problem is, I hope, will be mitigated.
Thank you, Olga. So, Sandra, how you at TUB foresee this future, and knowing that in order to operate the transformation, we have to do it not only regarding the motorization of vehicles, but we have to induce this cultural transformation, cultural transition, because sustainable urban mobility is not only about the technological transition and the environmental transition, it is also about this cultural transition. How do you see that TUB, Transportes Urbanos de Braga, can help accelerate this cultural transition that is needed to adopt new urban sustainable mobility solutions.
Okay, thank you. I think we don't have that much time, but there was a lot. There would be a lot to say around this. But to promote systemic and cultural change in public transport, it requires a faceted approach. But because it needs to focus on societal attitudes, consumer behaviors, and obviously public mobility policies as well as public infrastructure, but I would leave that to our councillor woman on that part. So I would say that the big thing, especially knowing Braga very well, is to change the society's perception of public transport. Because in the past, public transport was looked at as something for the poor people, people that couldn't afford a driver's license, for students who didn't have a driver's license. So we need to change that perception that people had about public transportation. And that has happened in Braga because we have increased, like the councilwoman said, 25%. So we see the numbers growing with the measures that we've been implementing thus far, especially since 2014. And I would say that marketing and communication, engaging passengers and enhancing their ridership experience is also important. I remind you that according to the European taxonomy, actually public transportation is an economic sustainable activity. It's over? Okay.
Like just 30 seconds.
Okay, it's an activity that is considered sustainable because it addresses environmental and social issues. First and foremost, because it helps reduce the green gas emissions, and then it addresses social because it's an inclusive activity, and equity because we allow people to access other fundamental human rights that are in the Constitution, like having access to education, to health services, to public services at affordable prices. So this is, also the BRT is definitely going to change the paradigm in Braga and show that public transportation can be modern, high capacity, reliable, and attractive, like unfortunately the individual cars industry is.
Thank you. We have 30 seconds left. Francisco, we have been focusing our discussion on decarbonization, but public transport is also a means to guarantee equity in access to transport. Do you think we should focus more on this transformation through the social benefits of public transport, not only the environmental benefits, but also the social, economical benefits of public transport?
Definitely. You know, what I think we have to do is actually explain people how they can save money, time, and enjoy the city by using public transport. That is the key reason. So we need to change the mind of the people using road transport or using the transportation systems in cities to understand that a different way to move, a different mobility, more sustainable in all ways, both socially, economically, and environmental is possible, desirable, and needed. And we really need to do it, I would say, not in 10 years, but immediately, and maximum within up to 2030.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Olga. Thank you, Francisco. Thank you, Sandra, for your contributes to the discussion. I'd like to thank all the attention from people in Portugal that are probably, they woke up early to see us live in the live stream. Also thank you for the people here present, and we see you around. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.